Please watch the video until the end. This account is the only record I kept of that night, and the final moments matter. Chapter 1, The Night the Train Stopped. We were supposed to be a blur of briefcases and earbuds, a nightly habit of metal and glass shuttling people back to small, warm lives. I remember the ordinary hum, the soft flush of the heating vents, the tinny announcements, the intermittent clack of wheels on rail. I remember Mara laughing at a joke she'd told 3 times and Jonas nodding off in his suit. We were all the same, tired, distracted, complacent. Then the train shuddered and the lights blinked. The driver announced a delay, trees down ahead, emergency crews en route. Hours, he said. We settled in to wait. Phone screens painted faces the color of lost moons. Somewhere down the length of the carriage a child cried and an elderly man coughed. That should have been the whole story, an inconvenience, a cold coffee, a later bedtime. Instead, something walked the tracks. Chapter 2, The First Howl. It began as a sound I had only ever heard in films, a single, drawn-out note that seemed to both come from far away and vibrate inside the ribcage. We all heard it. Conversation strangled mid-sentence. Someone laughed nervously and the laugh died. The call came again, closer, threaded with a metallic rattle as if claws scraped the ballast. Windows fogged from the inside then cleared, leaving nothing but the black of the woods. Heads turned to the windows, to the doors, to each other. A passenger tried the intercom and the voice that came back was small and tired. The driver said no one could walk the line until daylight. The police couldn't reach us, their radios were packed with calls about other incidents. The forest around the tracks seemed to lean in. When the creatures next sang, they were more than sound. They were a pressure, a communication that answered our fear with curiosity. One struck the carriage door with a force that rattled the whole car. We pressed back against the seats because there was nowhere else to go. Chapter 3, Names and Choices. People reveal themselves quickly when the world narrows to survival. I met names I hadn't before: Arya, an EMT whose hands trembled and steadied at once; Eli, who declared himself experienced with hunting and produced a pocketknife too small to be useful; Priya, who wrapped a child's coat tighter around a sleeping toddler. We formed a thin, uneasy alliance around the carriage vestibule because hubs of light and noise felt safer. Arguments flared, some about windows, some about tripropylene canisters and not wasting them. Someone wanted to try to walk to the nearest platform, another insisted we stay put. There was a contagion of blame. The man who had mocked a passenger earlier was now accused of attracting the creatures by banging on the window. I remember the way decisions felt then, a small arithmetic that paired cost with moral weight. Open a door and maybe someone would get out, leave it closed and we could all die. In the end, the vote to remain inside carried because the night made every step outside seem like a prelude to scenting us. Chapter 4, The Break. The creatures found a seam. It was a small error, a latch left loose as someone tried to wedge a door open for air. A pair of yellow eyes slipped through like a key. The sound that followed was not cinematic, it was bass and animal and full of an intelligence that hunted patterns. They moved in packs but with a terrifying coordination, flanking, retreating, isolating. We learned how quickly the human mind fractures under such precision. Voices rose into screams, then went thin. I remember gripping a strap until my fingers bled rather than let go of anything I thought might anchor me. By dawn, the carriage was a map of loss. Not all of us were killed outright, some were taken, others driven mad by fear. I kept count in the only way a survivor sometimes manages, with small rituals. 3 coats folded neatly, a pair of shoes lined beneath a seat, a wristwatch stopped at 2:17. Chapter 5, When Dawn Came In. Dawn isn't a promise. On that morning it was a thin strip of gray that didn't seem to belong to any calendar. The things outside began to retreat with the light, their howls thinning into something almost respectful, as if they knew when predators must yield to the sun. We were not rescued. We stumbled out onto a platform where the world had turned wild, cars dented, branches like broken ribs, an overturned sign bearing the name of a station that meant nothing anymore. We walked in silence, more sullen than grateful, each of us a collection of small, private wounds. I don't know if we would have survived without Arya. She kept the ones who could bleed from bleeding into death and kept me from deciding some of the things I might have done in the dark. When we finally reached the road, engine stared at us like a promise. A van slowed. Its driver saw us and scanned us like someone who had seen a bad dream leak into daylight. He called the police. Chapter 6, Aftermath and the Quiet. They asked us questions later that read like a different language: insurance forms, official reports, a psychologist who used words like trauma with the assuredness of someone who had only known trauma in theory. The investigators did their best, but we were left with a story that had bones missing. Some asked if we'd imagined parts of it. Some prayed for an explanation wrapped in the comfortable cloth of reason. I write this not to provide evidence but because memory is an obligation. There are nights when I hear the echo of a hoof fall that wasn't a hoof and I find myself checking the locks thrice. There are mornings I turn the radio off mid-broadcast because a song can become a trigger. The forest still exists beyond the rails. People cross it now with better lighting and more caution, but there are evenings when headlights dim and a distant cry threads through the air, and I feel the old calculus return: the weight of a decision, the cost of a human life, the small triumph of the living who dared to keep their hands tethered to each other. If you found this account compelling, please subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, give the video a like, leave a comment with your thoughts or questions, and share the video so others may hear this warning.